Okay, double check audio. Okay, got a face cam, mic test, speaker, that's me. Why is it flickering? Okay. First, I just want to say I watched your 20 minutes goal setting and goal getting video on Facebook. Very simple and clear, and it helped me take action on one of my major health goals this year, which is to help myself and my family transition from eating a lot of carbs every day to low carbs. And I can say that I'm making a big breakthrough. Yeah, good. Keep like that, please. So, would you mind sharing some example of your health goals and what system, what personal routine, what morning rituals or night rituals that helps you achieve those health goals? That leads you. That help you to achieve your health goals. Is it here yet? Yeah, it's coming. I like this. No, flicker, please. That's okay, flicker then. Oh. Can you see me? Managed to clear early? Do you manage? Mic test. It's because of the charger. Hello, Daniel.
My brother, how you doing?
Oh, your mic is really good.
Uh,
Oh,
you like this one?
yeah, it's very ASMR-ish. Oh, that is good. That is good. Okay, okay. All right. So the recording has started. So I just go ahead and introduce you, and then we just proceed with our topic today.
Let's do it, my brother. I'm in good hands.
All right. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Brain Body Bliss podcast. Now, you are here because you believe that our brain and our health is the most valuable asset to have a blissful life. And this is a place where we discover how entrepreneurs and experts bring their body and their mind to its peak state every day. So, today we will be talking about a topic called health goals and how to achieve them. So, today we will be featuring a very special guest today, Daniel Tolson. So before we get started, let me tell you a bit about Daniel Tolson. So at the age of 19, Daniel got into real estate and became the top 1% performer in that industry and bought his first investment property at the age of 19, okay? Now, having the dream to become the Australian champion wakeboarder, Daniel worked really hard to overcome fear and spent a lot of time and energy on personal development, learning the science to systematically break through barriers to achieving goals. And eventually, he became the Australian wakeboarder champion. Now, the experience set him up for a series of career highs, such as co-leading 17,000 cabin crews, launching, managing, turning around multiple businesses, and building a global business that impacts more than 20,000 business people in 60 different countries, including influential icons like Brian Tracy. And he helped them 100x their life and income. And his mission is to teach 1 million businesses to catapult their influence, accelerate impact, and unleash new income levels. And one thing I want to add, one more thing. Despite all the success and glory, Daniel is genuinely one of the nicest entrepreneurs I know. So ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome the one and only Daniel Tolson.
My brother, thank you so much. What a beautiful introduction.
Thank you for being here, Daniel.
My pleasure.
Now, yeah, I rehearsed a lot of times. So, okay. So first off, I really just want to say that I watched your 20 minutes goal setting video and goal getting video on your Facebook page, and it's really simple and clear. So, and it helped me take action on one of my major goals this year, and which is to help myself and my family transition from eating a lot of carbs to eating low carb every day. And I can say that I'm making a breakthrough because of that 20 minutes sharing of yours. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, goal setting is the master skill of success, and it's the most important thing that we can do as individuals and families. And as much as we need personal goals, we also need to have family goals. And on top of
Yes.
our family goals, we've got to have goals in all of the areas of our life that are important, including our finances, our education, and our spirituality. And once you have success in one area, the beautiful part about success is contagious. And if you can be successful in your finances, you can be successful in your career. If you can be successful in your career, you can have a successful family. And it's contagious to all other areas. And you've just got to get it right once in one area. And then you copy and paste the strategy everywhere else, and results become predictable.
Success is contagious. Okay.
Well,
Yeah,
you've heard
very
it said before, if you spend time with 5 losers, you become the 6th. But if you
mm-hmm,
spend time with 5 successful people, you
mm-hmm,
become the 6th. And at the end of the day, we can't give what we don't have. So if we are not setting and achieving our own goals,
mm-hmm.
it's virtually impossible to help anybody set and achieve theirs, because emotions are more contagious than COVID-19. And everybody's had an emotional experience before. If you've come home and your mum and dad are fighting and you walk through the front door, you can feel the anger in the room. If mum's in the room crying, you can
Yes.
feel the sadness in the room. And automatically, without even knowing what's
Yes.
going on, you can feel it. When you walk into a room and all of your friends are telling a joke and they're having a great time, you walk and you can feel that excitement and that enthusiasm. So the emotions are contagious, and we need to put a lot of emotional energy into our goals to make them work.
Wow. Yes. That's wow. I learned this good. Then, Daniel. Okay. So, would you mind sharing some example of your health goals and what system or what personal routine or rituals that helps you to achieve your health goals?
Well, I was 99 kilos when I was 19, and I'm 99 kilos today. So over a period, well, I'm 43 this year. So I've been able to maintain a consistent weight. My size has fluctuated. However, my weight has remained somewhat the same. So I think the most important thing that I've learned over the years is the importance of sleep. So the majority of people who are suffering different types of illnesses have
Mm-hmm.
very little sleep.
Mm-hmm.
People who are struggling and are living beyond or below the comfort zone, then what happens is they lack sleep. So they're always
Yeah.
in a constant fatigue.
Yeah.
So when I was studying self-made millionaires and self-made billionaires, I realized that people who were stuck in poverty were sleeping around about 5 to 6 hours per night.
Yeah.
Self-made millionaires are sleeping 6 to 7 hours per night, and billionaires are sleeping 7 to 8 hours per night.
Yeah.
So at a very young age, I realized that if I could have a healthy sleep, it made the weight or weight gain so much easier if I wanted to bulk up. So
Mm-hmm.
the first thing is the importance of sleep and being in a very good routine. The
Mm-hmm.
second thing about sleep is also having a consistent wake up time.
Mm.
Now, a lot of people have inconsistent wake up times. And when you have an inconsistent wake up time, you'll actually suffer more mental and emotional health issues.
Yeah.
You'll wake up in the morning and your anxiety levels will be higher.
Mm.
If you wake up late or you oversleep, you experience negative emotions at the start of the day, and they impact your performance for the first 4 hours. And then they have a multiplying effect after that.
Yeah.
So having a good sleep coupled by a set wake up time puts the body into a rhythm. And then what happens without an alarm clock, you can wake up at the same time every day once you start to get into that habit. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the first part. The second part is, for me, is to have a very clear image inside of my mind of
Mm-hmm.
what I want my body to look like. The way that the
Mm-hmm.
mind works is we start with an internal representation,
Mm.
which is a picture coupled with a sound. Now,
Mm-hmm.
that internal representation then influences our feelings. And those feelings then determine our behaviors, things that we do and don't do. So we have to have a self-image of who we are now. And we also have to have an image, a self-ideal, the person who we want to become in the future. And it's that self ideal, that picture that we've got to constantly hold in our mind. And we've got to hold that picture of who we want to become in our mind. And that's got to become our most dominant thought. Based on that, we'll change our feelings, our energy levels will change, and we'll start to take action towards that picture. Essentially, that picture becomes your goal. And what we say in success is focus on what you want. So you become very clear of what you want your body to look like. You focus on that, and then you follow through with the behaviors.
Like, okay, you talked about like success is contagious, right? Once you have one success, and then the rest will follow because it's contagious. Could you tell me about the story how you discovered that philosophy?
When I was 19, my mentor said to me, he said, Daniel, your life is off track. You're going in the wrong direction. And the way that you're heading is going to lead to disaster. He said, if you keep going down that same path, making the same mistakes, you'll end up in a place in life where you don't want to be. And he said, I can tell you from personal experience that you're going in the wrong direction. He said, you've got to get on the right track. Now, at 19, I think a lot of us don't know what that right track is. We don't really know what's possible. So my mentor said to me, what are you going to do with your life? I said, I don't know. I said, I don't know what I want to do. Before that, I dropped out of school. Before that, I'd spent 5 years in remedial therapy because I had some very severe learning disabilities that led to physical illness. So I dropped out of school. So I was really behind everybody else. And I needed a mentor to show me what was possible. And he said something to me, it was quite profound. He said, if you do what successful people do, you'll get the same results. And if you don't, you won't. And I asked him, well, what do successful people do? He said, well, for somebody like you who has no education, the only thing you can do right now is to get into sales. And he said, in sales, especially in real estate sales, it was the last place where you could write your own paycheck, which meant that you were fully 100% responsible for how much commission you brought home. If you wanted to bring home 10,000, you could, 20,000, 50,000, 100,000 in commissions. You got to write your own paycheck. So I asked him, I said, what do successful people do in real estate? And he showed me a blueprint. He said, this is what they do Monday to Friday. This is how they schedule their Mondays. This is how they schedule their Tuesdays, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And he said, if you just go out and do what the top performers do, then you'll achieve those results in 1/10 of the time. Now, I'm a very simple person. And if I look up to somebody and I believe in them and they're getting that result, I don't second guess the strategy. Because if you do what successful people do, you'll get the same result. And you'll get it in 1/10 of the time because that successful person has made all the mistakes. So an idiot would go out and try to reinvent the wheel, where a simple person just says, well, the wheel works, let's do what they do. So I went out and my mentor gave me a plan. And he said, Daniel, speak to 500 people per week, knock on 500 doors, ring on 100 phones, and you'll get to speak to 100 people. Out of those 100 people that you find, one person will sell their property. And that property will be worth $7,200 in commissions. And if you do that every week, then every month you'll bring in $28,000 to $30,000 worth of commissions. He said it's that simple. Don't overthink it. Just go out and do it. So I followed his formula. And within the first 6 months, I was in the top 10 sales creators in the country. Now, I'm a high school dropout. I have linear sequential learning disabilities. I've been suffering chronic fatigue, Epstein-Barr virus. I've just had a major knee reconstruction. I have no formal education. And I'm already in the top 10% of sales creators in the country, in the top 10 people. And the first time I went out and followed the formula, it worked. And I said to my mentor, I said, what do I do now? He said, you do it again. And so the next month I went out and I did it again. And I said, what do I do now? He said, Daniel, don't change the formula. Just keep doing the same thing because you're going to get the same result. And eventually, within that 6 months, I was in the top 10 sales creators in the entire country. And it was predictable. I'd go out, I'd knock on the doors, I'd ring the bells, I'd get the results, the money would follow. And then I said, well, what do I do next? He said, well, you've succeeded here. You should buy your first house. I said, come on, I'm 19. He said, well, just do what successful people do and you'll get the same result. So 19 and a half, I'm buying my first house. Started with nothing. And then after I got the first house, I said to him, what do I do now? He said, you do it again. So by the age of 21, I'm buying my second real estate investment property. And I just did what successful people do. And it becomes contagious. I succeeded on the doors. I succeeded on the phones. I succeeded in the sales. I succeeded in the investing. And that went on to becoming multiple state champion in my sport of wakeboarding, and then becoming an Australian champion, launching other businesses, turning other businesses around. Just repeat the formula. Just do what successful people do. It's that simple.
Wow. Well, for me, I think I really need this advice because I am a chronic overthinker. Because I overthink a lot of this all the time. But you really have the ability to make something that seemed complex to me simple. For example, the goal setting 20 minutes video you share about, like the way you phrase it. There's a phrase that you said is like, explain it in a way that a 7-year-old would understand, and yeah, and then that clicks with me, and then you further talk about the subconscious and conscious mind.
Should we talk about that again?
Yeah, like yes, yeah.
The SMART goal setting formula is one of the simplest ways to set and achieve your goals. And you don't have to be intelligent. You don't have to be smart. You've just got to be literal. And being literal means if somebody gives you a formula, just follow it. And today, Sylar, we're very intelligent. And it's only my opinion that we often use our intelligence against ourselves. We overthink it. We're so concerned about things not being perfect the first time. We want everything to be correct because we're so afraid that if we make a mistake, what does that say about me as an individual? I'm going to be a failure. People are going to look down on me. People are going to compare me. Well, the reality is nobody's even watching. People are so preoccupied with what's going on in their life. And most of the pain that we create in our life is from our own overthinking, over-analyzing, applying perceptions that don't even exist in reality. So when it comes to goals, we've got to understand that the conscious mind is the goal setter. And the unconscious mind is the goal getter. Now, your unconscious mind is said to be 30,000 times more powerful than the conscious mind. And we know this to be true because 95% of what we do every single day is habitual in nature. We've got 60,000 thoughts. 95% are just on repeat every single day. When you wake up this morning, you don't even think about which foot you put on the floor in front of you. When you walk from your bed to the bathroom, you don't even think about left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot. When you go to the toilet, you don't even think about it. You just stand there and you go to the toilet. 95% of things we do are unconscious. So our behaviors, who we are created unconsciously. So all you've got to do is set a realistic goal, and then your unconscious mind will generate behaviors. And that's the first thing we've got to accept, because the harder we try consciously to make something happen, the more we push it away. Where the unconscious mind's got this beautiful pull effect, because once you activate the unconscious mind, you start to activate all of these other mental laws, which we'll get to in a moment. And they are turned on automatically when you set goals. So first of all, let's have a conscious mind conversation. When it comes to goal setting, our goals should follow a formula. and it's called the SMART goal setting formula. And the first thing when we set a goal, it must be specific.
Mm.
It's got to be specific, which means you've got to be able to measure it. So I now weigh 99 kilos, and we've got to put a date on it. It's got to be very specific. A lot of people say, I want to lose weight, or I want to gain muscle mass. But these things are ambiguous, and there's no specificity. So the first thing is the goal's got to be specific. So I'll give you an example. My daughter and I were at home, and we said, let's set a goal. Let's set a goal to make more money. More money is not specific. More money is ambiguous. And we're having a laugh about it. We're here in the house, and then we went down to Family Mart. We went to Family Mart. We walked outside. I looked on the ground and said, baby, we're rich. And I picked up $1 off the floor. She said, Dad, we're rich. And I said, I just set a goal to make more money. And now I've found $1 on the ground. I said, baby, we're rich. She said, Dad, all of that effort for $1. See, the thing about the unconscious mind, it doesn't matter what you want. As long as you give it a clear instruction, it will go out and give you exactly what you ask for. Now, I asked for more money. And if we're honest, $1 is more money. But who wants to spend weeks and months and years improving their knowledge, improving their skills just to make an extra $1? So if you don't give your unconscious mind a clear instruction, you'll end up with something that you didn't truly want. Now, I didn't want $1. I want millions of them. So the goal's got to be specific. Secondly, when we set our goal, it has to be so simple that a 7-year-old can understand it. And the reason why we do that is because your unconscious mind understands language at a 7-year-old's level. Now, if my baby girl can't understand my goal and repeat it back to me, then my unconscious mind won't understand it, and it won't create behaviors to go and get it. So your goal's got to be simple and specific. Secondly, the goal's got to be measurable. It's got to be measurable, and it's got to be meaningful to you. Measurable means if it comes to weight loss or weight gain, you have to know exactly where you're starting from. And the fear for people is they don't want to know the reality. How many people have a set of scales in their bathroom? They go to the bathroom 2 or 3 times a day, but they're afraid to hop on the scale because the numbers don't lie. The numbers, facts, don't care about your feelings. But we get so caught up about the feelings. What if I hop on and I'm overweight? I'm going to be so devastated. What are people going to think of me? I'll never be able to lose the weight. I don't have enough time. I've got to go to this wedding. I'm never going to fit in my wedding dress. The girls are never going to look at me. Oh my gosh. So we avoid the thing that we should do. The first thing that you've got to do is you've got to have an accurate starting point. And you've got to jump on the scales because it determines everything you do. So if I think, a guy said to me the other day, he said, how much do you weigh? 88 kilos? I laughed at him. I said, guess again. He said, 85? I said, you've got to be kidding. I said, I'm 99 kilos. So he had an inaccurate perception of my weight. I know my weight because I get on the scales. So we have to start by getting an accurate starting point. And then we have to set our goal, and then we can measure it. So if I'm 99 today and I want to get to 95, I know that I've got to lose 4 kilos, and I can measure that. And the importance of measuring things in management is what gets measured gets done. If I don't know where I'm starting from and I go on this weight loss journey and I can't count my calories, I can't count my waist size, I can't count my weight drop, I don't get motivated. There's no meaning to it. So it's got to be measurable. It also has to be meaningful to you. So many of us are achieving goals because somebody else has told us, you should have this goal. You should buy this car. You should invest in this program. But most of the time we set goals to make other people happy. And if there's no meaning there's no movement. You wake up in the morning, you say, well, what's the point of losing all this weight?
Hmm.
Is it going to get me a new girlfriend? Is it going to get me a new boyfriend? Is it going to get me any recognition? What's the result I'm looking for? And if there's no meaning, there's no motivation. And if there's no motivation, there's no movement. So the goal's got to be both simple and specific. It's got to be measurable, and it's got to have meaning. Now, the reason why meaning is so important, because it brings emotion into goal setting. And what you'll find is if you've ever set a goal and there was no emotional reason attached, you would have quit on the goal. Because the emotions are like fuel in the fuel tank.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I'm in Kuala Lumpur and I want to drive from KL to Penang, I've got to have a lot of fuel in my car. I might have to have 200 litres of gas. And if I've got 200 litres of gas in my tank, then I can drive from KL to Penang. But if I only have 5 litres of fuel in my tank, how far am I going to go before my vehicle loses energy? The same with goals. We've got to have a lot of emotion, a lot of reason, a lot of meaning. Goals also have to be achievable. And this is where we've been lied to. We've been lied to for most of our lives, where people say you can set and achieve any goal that you set for yourself. And so people think, well, I'm earning $10,000 a year. I'm going to set a goal to make $1 million a year. And I'm going to go from 10,000 to $1 million overnight. And this is the big lie.
Mm-hmm.
It's not achievable based on where you're starting from.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm 98 and I set a goal to lose 30 kilos, what's going to happen to my body?
Not very healthy.
Not very healthy.
Yeah.
But somebody who's 250 kilos and loses 30 kilos, what's going to happen to their body?
Well, if it's longer time, like in span of 3 months, that would be good. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's possible, isn't it? Like if you're 250 kilos
Yeah.
and you lose 30 kilos of fat, that's absolutely possible.
Yeah.
But for me, who's 99 and want to lose 30 kilos, it's
Wow.
not achievable.
Yeah.
So we have to set goals that are achievable. And the reason why this is if you set a goal that is achievable and you set and achieve it, then your brain releases chemicals. And I wrote a book called Free Drugs. And what happens is when you set a goal, you get a dopamine rush. You get really excited. Secondly, when you start to take action towards the goal, you get an adrenaline rush because now you've got to overcome obstacles. And it's every time that you overcome that obstacle that you get more energy, you get more belief, you get more excitement. You think, you know what, I can actually do this.
Yes.
And then when you achieve the goal, your brain releases serotonin, which is nature's happy drug. Those 3 neurotransmitters can make you numb to things like anxieties, fear, depression. And so when you set a goal that is achievable, the most important thing is that you gain belief from it. So if you're on a weight loss journey, losing 10 kilos in the next month is probably not achievable. Maybe even losing 10 kilos over the next year might not even be achievable. And what happens is if the goal is too big and you set it and you don't achieve it, you actually lose confidence in your abilities, which does emotional damage.
Yeah.
So you're better off to set a goal to lose 1 kilo, which is absolutely achievable for anybody. And when you achieve that goal, you get self-belief and confidence. And you say, you know what? I set that goal and I achieved it. Now I want to lose another kilo. And at the start of your journey, you feel convinced that this is possible. And there's no self-sabotage. But if you say to yourself, I'm going to lose 10 kilos over the next 30 days, you know it's not achievable. You'll find yourself in the kitchen eating peanut butter. You'll be eating bread because you'll say, what's the point? It's not possible. So it's got to be achievable. Goals also have to be realistic for you. And that's the R in the SMART formula. It's got to be realistic for you. It's not realistic for me to lose 30 kilos. I went to the doctor recently and did a health check. And he said, Mr. Tolson, he says, you're in the obese category. And I said, you think I'm in the obese category?
No.
He said, well, according to your BMI,
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I've been in that obese category since 19. Yet I'm a
Mm.
former Australian champion athlete. I've got a
Mm.
personal trainer. I've got a healthy diet.
Mm-hmm.
I drink no alcohol, if any. I'm
Mm.
very healthy. And he
Mm-hmm.
said, well, based on your height, I'm 6 foot, based
Mm.
on your weight, 99 kilos, you're in the obese zone. And I said, do I look obese to you? He
No.
said, no. So the goal has to be realistic for you.
Mm.
For me to put on another 5 kilos of muscle is
Mm-hmm.
extremely easy and it's
Mm-hmm.
possible.
Mm-hmm.
But for a much smaller frame, that's a lot harder to
Yeah.
do. So it's got to be realistic in relation to where you're starting from,
Mm-hmm.
based on your knowledge, your skill, also your body type.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've got friends like my brother. My brother, he's got a six pack. He's had a six pack his whole life, but he's a smaller frame than me.
Mm.
Very different body shape. So for him to bulk up is very hard.
Mm-hmm.
So if he wants to set a goal to put on 10 kilos of muscle,
Mm-hmm.
it may not happen
Yeah.
naturally.
Yeah, naturally, that's
And maybe
correct.
if we talk about testosterone replacement and steroids and these other things and human growth hormones, then it's a different story.
Yeah,
But
but
what's realistic?
mm,
And then finally, we have to have a time
mm,
and we have to have a start time. When do I start this goal? And when do I have to achieve that goal by? And we've got to stick to our time frames. So going back to the point that I was making before, a lot of people say, well, I'm earning $10,000 a year. I want to earn $1 million by the end of the year. Well,
mm,
maybe you're going to win lottery.
mm,
Maybe by God's luck, your brand or your product goes viral,
mm-hmm.
but it's incredibly rare.
Yeah.
The $1 million goal is absolutely possible, but it's over a longer period of time.
Mm,
So we have to have time as a consideration. And if we follow that SMART goal formula, simple and specific, measurable and meaningful,
mm,
achievable, realistic, and we have time frames, then what happens if we follow that, we can set and achieve any goal.
mm-hmm.
And if we can master that, then you can become anybody that you want to become. You can do what you want to do and you can have anything that you want if you just
Mm-hmm.
follow that formula.
Yeah. Personally, I did write down. You have the time frame, the statement. I wrote it down. My statement was, Sylar, by 22nd of April, 2023, I would have transitions my own diet and my family's diet from a lot of carbs to low carb. You know,
Mm.
and then that, like you said, is simple enough that my subconscious mind take it. It's something that I think about it every day because it's achievable, and then the because it's very specific. Like the first thing I gotta figure out is how to transition like the rice, because we Chinese, we eat a lot of rice,
Mm.
into eating like no rice. So that was my first obstacle. And then when I voiced that out, I was like, how do I do that? And my girlfriend on the side heard it, and she said that, why don't you just change the rice to the cognac rice or cauliflower rice? And then things like, oh my god, like why didn't I think about that? But it's because I specifically thought about it and then voiced it out, and then I got a response from her, or maybe the universe sent her to respond to me like that. And then I have a very specific action plan, which is buy a lot of cauliflowers, and then somehow get a blender or a food processor, and which I didn't have to buy because I realized my mom bought it like 10 years ago and she never used it. And then so I bought like three big cloves of cauliflower and bring back home and grind the cauliflowers. And then I have the cauliflower rice, very easy. And I was so excited because I actually see progress here. And this is very relevant to me, is because a personal why here is because my grandfather had Alzheimer's disease. I did a lot of research on how to prevent this disease, which is like sugar and carbs is one of the big contribution to this disease, which cause inflammation and insulin resistance. And but we are so attached to eating rice. So I really want to help my dad with this, to prevent this. But then, I gotta convince my whole family to do it because, we eat together. And then this is a progress here. But now the second obstacle that I'm facing is, turns out my family don't really enjoy the taste of it, you know. So yeah, I'm
That's
thinking,
one of
yeah,
the challenges. If you have a look at how your goal is structured, and this can be confusing for a lot of people who are setting goals, is we can only set goals for ourselves.
mm, yeah, correct.
And the other people in our family need to have their own goals as well. So my wife, she had a goal to become a vegetarian.
Mm,
And I reckon she was almost on her way to killing herself after about 6 months because her body needs meat.
yeah, protein.
So we've got to make sure that we set the right goal. And when we set goals, the goal and how it's structured, we can only set goals for ourselves. And then what we have to do is we've got to be able to enroll the family members into it
Mm,
if it's what they want to do.
mm,
And the risk for anybody who's setting a goal for somebody else
mm,
is it can come with a lot of frustration and
true.
guilt and remorse because we say, hey, haven't you seen all these things that I'm doing for you? I'm out here to save your life. I want you to live a longer, healthier life. I want you to be around to see you dance at your grandchildren's wedding. And sometimes we can put a lot of effort and we want something for them that they don't want for themselves.
Mm,
And this is a challenge in goal setting. So, what I like to recommend is when you set goals for a family, is you do it from the ground up rather than the top down.
mm,
And when we do it from the top down, it's very much like what happens in business. So let's say, for example, you're in sales, and this happened to me when I was younger. My boss came to me and he said, Daniel, this month we're going to have a peak performance month. And I said, are we? He said, and what we're going to do, we're going to stretch, we're going to set big goals, we're going to make more appointments, we're going to make more sales, we're going to make more commissions than we've ever done in the past.
mm,
And I said, and then what? He said, we're going to work 7 days a week. We're going to work a whole month straight. And I said, then what? And he goes, then you're going to have freedom. And I said, I'm going to give up my freedom to get a little bit of freedom at the end.
mm.
I said, this sounds like your goal, boss,
Yeah.
not mine.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, are you in? And I said, no, that's not what I want.
Mm,
I want to be an athlete. I want to make some money. I want to be able to train. I want to go out. I want to chase the girls. I want to buy some clothes. I want to have some fun. I want to get drunk with the mates. You know, I'm 19.
mm-hmm.
And I said, you go for it if that's what you want to do. So he went out, and by the end of the month, he burned himself out. And for me, I just kept producing consistent results that month and the following month.
Mm-hmm.
And it was because he tried to push that goal top down.
Mm,
Now, if he would have come and started bottom up and said, hey, big fella, what do you want to do this month? What are your goals? I would have told him, well, you know, I want to be training on the wakeboard 5 days a week. I want to be closing 7 deals a month. And I actually want to work fewer hours, so I've got more hours for recovery. If he would have come to me and helped me achieve that, I would have had more time to help him achieve his goal.
mm,
But he never asked me what I wanted.
yeah.
So we've got to make sure we set our goals from bottom up.
Ground
And
up.
what happens is when you do it from the bottom up, you get
Mm,
buy-in. People say, you know what? I'd love to do that. And then it becomes, instead of my goal, it's our goal. And everybody's
mm,
got buy-in.
mm-hmm. Wow. Okay. Yeah, I never thought about that. Yeah, yeah. I should have asked my family members, like, what are their health goals instead, and let's see if we have a intersection in our common direction, our goal, and then we work together with that. Yeah, yeah.
Well, here's the thing:
Mm,
is all of us are alive. If
yeah,
you're watching or listening to the podcast, you're alive.
yeah.
But let me ask you: have you set a goal for how long you want to live?
For me, well, for me, I would like. Well, I have a term called longevity, which is, you live long and strong. Like, well, I would like to live at least until 90 years old, and I'm still be able to walk with my own 2 legs. That's good.
So what
Yeah.
we do is in goal setting when it comes to health, the first thing is you've got to decide how long you want to live for.
Mm,
And most people have never decided how long they want to live. And this is one of the things I learned from Brian Tracy, my mentor. He
Mm-hmm.
said, Daniel, you've got to have a goal to live to 100.
Mm.
And the reason why you must set a goal to live to 100 is because the most successful people in America have long time perspectives. So
Mm-hmm.
if I have a goal to live to 100, now what I have to do is I have to consider everything I put in my mouth.
Yeah.
I've got to consider all of my meals. I've got to consider my health and workout routines, all of my nutrition, my healthcare, because whatever I'm doing today has to get me to 100.
Yeah.
But most people have never decided how long they want to live for. And
Mm.
going back to the analogy before with my daughter, I want to make more money.
Mm.
I get an extra dollar. Imagine if you say, I want to live longer and you only live till tomorrow, because longer
Yeah.
tomorrow is more than now.
Yeah.
How disappointed would you be? So
Yeah.
you've got to decide how long you want to live for.
Mm.
And this is what the world's most successful people do, is they have long time perspectives. People who live paycheck to paycheck, people who live hand to mouth, make
Mm.
decisions about their health hour to hour. So they say, well, I could eat this hamburger now. Okay, no consequences. I can drink this bottle of Coke now. No consequences.
Mm-hmm.
But when you consider the consequences of eating that hamburger, eating that
Mm.
rice, drinking the 3 lattes from Starbucks every day, you quickly realize that's not going to get you to 100.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
if you haven't set a goal yet, set a goal to live to 100. And Brian Tracy
Mm.
actually wrote a book on that. I think it was called 21 Great Ways to Live to 100.
Mm-hmm.
And he's big on
Gotcha.
that. And so when I heard my mentor say that, I'm a simple guy. I said, well, if it's good for my mentor, I'll set the goal as well.
Mm.
And that
Yeah.
comes back to making good decisions, which you asked for before. What do you do to keep your health? Well,
Mm.
I've got a goal to sleep. And my goal is to get 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night.
Mm. Yeah.
And I'm disciplined. I'll sleep until 7 and I'll
Mm.
make sure that I'm in bed by 11. And if I've got to
11.
get up at 6, I make sure I'm in bed by 10.
Totally.
No YouTube, no gaming,
Yeah.
no drinking.
Mm.
I've got to get this 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night because I
Yeah.
want to live to 100.
Yeah. That is something. Sleep is something that I s- struggle from time to time. But you mentioned about living up to 100. I happen to be I happen to be looking into this topic for quite a while. Um, like there's a person that I really look up to as in his the way he lived. What's his name again? Helio Gracie is
Mm-hmm.
a Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy, and he lived until he was like 96, 94. But on his last day, before he passed, he was still rolling on the mat with his grandchildren doing jiu-jitsu. And then the way he passed, he just took a regular nap on his hammock, and then he just peacefully left his body.
Yep.
And for me, that's a way, man. Like, I don't want to live until 100 and I'm in a hospital bedridden, but I want to live 100 and still walking and rolling. Yeah, that's
In all decisions, everything we put in our mouth has a consequence. There's
correct.
nothing on this planet that has no consequence.
Mm-hmm.
From what you do in the morning with your nutrition has consequences, either positive or negative. And we have to consider it. And I believe that because I've done this many times in my life and it happens on a weekly basis.
Mm.
We know we're going to eat 3 times a day.
Mm.
But how many people actually plan for their meals?
Mm-hmm.
Like with this morning, I woke up and I went, oh, there's no cereal.
Mm-hmm.
But I've had breakfast every day of my life. How is it
Mm-hmm.
possible? It's out of our awareness. And then it comes to lunchtime and you look in the fridge and there's nothing there. So you get hangry and then you're angry and you're hungry at once and you just go, give me whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go and eat something that you shouldn't eat. And then the same for dinner.
Yes.
So we've really got to think through it of what we do. My father-in-law is very disciplined.
Mm-hmm.
He makes tea. And the tea that we drink every day, and we drink about 1 litre to 1.5 litres of tea every day, He started making this a year ago because he knows that we need tea in 2024 and he better start preparing the tea in 2023. So it starts to age and dry a year in advance. And see, this is a long-term perspective. And my father-in-law, he's a professor and he thinks about longevity.
Oh.
So he thinks, well, got to feed the family. They want to drink tea. He's preparing today, a year from now.
Like planting the
But
tea?
most of us, pardon?
Like he plants the tea?
Doesn't plant it, makes the tea fresh every day.
Okay.
So there's a, wherever he gets his tea leaves from, my daughter, she was telling me the other day that when he makes the tea, he started preparing it a year ago.
Okay.
Whatever his process is. I'm ignorant. I just drink it.
Does it have a name on the tea? Like, is it pu'er or is it green tea?
I don't know.
Oh,
This is the beautiful part about being ignorant. I've lived in Taiwan for a decade, and I still don't speak any Chinese. But I trust in my father-in-law, and the reason why I trust in it is because he had cancer, and as part of the recovery, he had to change his diet. And so he put a lot of research into what he should be eating for himself and for the family, and also when it should be consumed and when it shouldn't be consumed. So I trust his judgment, being a scientist.
yes. That's your father-in-law is very cool. Sounds very cool. Like he had cancer, and then he, with his own research, he self-made, like he recovered from it. Like, I mean, I do hear about like the benefits of green tea, where it's because it's antioxidant, so it can help preventing cancer. It can help prevent cancer. But wow, I gotta like, wow, your father-in-law sounds very cool.
He's very, very intelligent, and he's one of the leading marine biologists in Southeast Asia. So he knows a lot about biology, and he also creates and grows and designs fish farms. So some of these fish farms that he's created for his clients are in excess of 5,000 acres of fresh fish. And he also knows that what you feed the fish, the human will end up consuming. So if the farmer's providing genetically modified food to the fish, that's going to affect the meat. We're going to consume the meat. It's going to impact us. So when he creates his farm, some of these farms have a fish farm that's 5,000 acres. So there's 5,000 acres of water. And then next door, there's a 5,000 acre farm of fresh worms. So even on his fish farms, the fishes are eating a natural diet, not a genetically modified diet.
Yes. Yeah.
So a man with that type of wisdom, I just trust in his 50 years of experience.
Yeah, like I heard of a phrase called "We are not only what we eat, we are also what we eat eats." Yeah. So like, because now I took a look like at Alzheimer's. One of the leading cause is heavy metals like mercury, and salmon or other big fishes. They happen to, there's like pollution in the sea. So I often worry when I buy the fishes from my own home market. I was like, am I consuming mercury from this fish meat? So now that your father has his own fish farm, I was like, wow, like he don't need to worry about what he's consuming because it's guaranteed, because by his own hands. That's cool.
Here in Taiwan, the Taiwanese are very aware and very diligent of where their pork comes from. So one of the hot pot restaurants that we eat at has emotionally intelligent pork. And I asked my wife, I said, what is this emotionally intelligent pork? She said, well, they have a natural diet. There's no genetically modified foods. And they also play classical music to the pigs when they grow up. Wow. So I feel I'm very intelligent because I eat emotionally intelligent pork.
Oh, that explains a lot. No wonder you're so nice and calm all the time.
Well, what we've learned is the mind also impacts the body. And we're living in a day and age where there's a lot of stress. And 84% of illness today can't be diagnosed. And what it means
Yeah.
is that 84% of disease is psychosomatic in nature.
Mm.
And this is where our mind makes our body sick.
Mm. Yeah.
And the things that can't be diagnosed have come from sources of stress. And we
Yes.
go through these periods of time, things like COVID-19, and we're going to start to see this.
Mm.
You can quote me on this. Over the next couple of years, we're going to see a significant increase in cancer rates
Yeah.
because COVID-19 was a significant emotional event for majority of people.
Yes.
And it was also a shock.
Mm.
So they have what's called a Uden moment. COVID-19 came along, it was unexpected.
Yeah.
Nobody prepared for it. It was also dramatic because we were locked down, we were forced to have vaccinations,
Mm.
and thirdly, we're also isolated. Now,
Yeah.
what a lot of people didn't realize is that we're isolated from our family and friends and our community. We can't talk to people, we can't have conversations about what's on our mind. But in all penal systems, in all prisons, the greatest punishment in the prison
Yeah.
system is isolation.
Yeah.
So all of us were isolated, some of us for a year, 2, and even up to 3 years. And during that time, there was no coping mechanism. The government didn't come along and say, this is how you deal with your emotions.
Mm.
They didn't come along and say, this is how you deal with your stress.
Mm.
This is how you deal emotionally after financial loss or career loss. We had no coping mechanisms.
Mm.
And whenever there's a Uden moment, unexpected, dramatic, isolating, and no coping mechanism, always 2 to 3 years after that, then there'll be a surge in cancer rates.
Yes.
It's where the stress becomes so big that it impacts the body. And then at
Yes.
that stage, the weakest organ in the body will be attacked. And
Yes.
so we've got to expect a lot of cancer rates over the next couple of years, a significant spike.
Yeah. And I can vouch for that because last year, or is it 2 years ago? I'm a bit fuzzy on the timeline. But my uncle and my aunt was quarantined, at home because everyone was in a lockdown. And when it slightly opened up, and I had a chance to visit my uncle and my aunt, I can obviously observe that my uncle's state wasn't very sound. He was how the way I can describe it is like normally he was a very masculine, a very grown adult, but when I saw him, when I last saw him, when like after the lockdown opens up, I can see that his state was, he felt like more like a young a child, like a kid. He couldn't form words. He was like anxious and depressed. I couldn't put a finger on it, but it's just like something, his state was off.
Mm.
And then months later, after his first Pfizer vaccine, or his first Pfizer vaccine, he's supposed to take 2, and then he got COVID and he passed away. Yeah, and then it was my aunt. Like after my uncle passed away, my aunt suffered from a very heavy emotional load, And then when I meet her again, like she was forgetting things. She usually was a very social person, and then she barely speak when we invite her out for a meal.
Mm.
Yeah, because she was also in grief as well.
Mm.
She loved my uncle so much, and but after then, after the lockdown completely opens, I took her out and my father for hikes and getting out more, and then she starts to talk again, and now she's like normal. So isolation really does something to a person. Yeah.
When you go through those emotions,
Mm.
negative emotions are not healthy for the body.
Yes.
So when you're angry at the world and you're angry at the government and you're angry at COVID, then you experience this emotion inside of the body. And everything that triggers that emotion of anger, it impacts and it triggers that emotion for up to 4 hours. And so that runs really high. Now,
Yeah.
if we're constantly getting triggered with anger, then that anger eventually calcifies and hardens the heart. And then the heart just goes and stops pumping, leads to heart attack.
Yeah.
When we lose somebody, and we experience sadness and we don't grieve fully, the sadness turns into grief.
Mm.
The grief eventually turns into depression, which is just very long term sadness. And then the sadness weakens the body's immune system. And then you're more susceptible to disease and illness.
Mm.
Also, if you're experiencing emotions like hurt or guilt, then these also impact the body's healing energy. So you might get ill and then it takes a long time to recover.
Mm.
And then these things, when there's a lot of inner conflict, especially between what's happening in the outer world and what's happening in your inner world, if you're experiencing a lot of internal conflict, then we know that also leads to cancer.
Mm.
If we're experiencing fear, fear of loss, fear of the unknown, then this here can lead to post-traumatic stress disorder. And a lot of people won't know how to explain it in their own terms, but they'll feel that they're damaged from COVID, that it was such a traumatic experience that they're going to suffer for years and decades later. Think about how many people lost their jobs and they still haven't got them back. And then they've got to recover financially. This could go on for another decade, but nobody's saying this is how you manage your emotions.
Mm.
So, like your auntie here, they have what's called an emotional hijack. The emotions take over and then they act before they think, which leads to more mistakes, which leads to more guilt and shame and embarrassment. And the emotions are just running high constantly and nobody's talking about how to manage them.
Mm. Yes.
We've got to solve that.
And you
And you know
mentioned
how
about
you know how you solve it? You set a goal.
Yeah.
See, goal setting gives
Oh.
you hope.
Yes.
15% of your motivation comes from the past, and fully 85% of your motivation comes from the future.
Future. Yes.
And when you have dreams, hopes, goals, wishes, ambitions, you look out into the future and you see a better future. And every day when you take a step towards your goals, when you review your plans, when you just have a little micro win, then that confidence increases, your self-esteem increases, your self-worth increases, and then you feel like there's something to worth living for. And goals give you something to look forward to. Goals give you something to look up to, because when you set a goal, you see yourself as a different person.
Yes.
And when you have something to look forward to and something to look up to, then you're willing to get up out of bed every day and take action.
Yes. Yeah. Like you said, success is contagious. Yeah.
It
Yeah,
is. And
that's my
if you set a goal and you achieve it, then your family can feed off your positive vibe. And when they set and achieve a goal, then they spread that positive vibe. And it makes your family, your environment, a better place.
yeah.
And it grows.
I realized that this goal setting thing is not only just about achieving certain desires as goal. It's also seems also like subtly is a transformational process of transforming a person's emotion to a more positive one. Yeah.
Well, let's think about somebody who's obese. If you're obese and you set a goal to lose the weight, then you have to think, feel, and act like a totally different person. And you have to, first of all, have the inner transformation. And there's a great show on TV, and it's called My 600-Pound Life. And there's a doctor by the name of Dr. Nazardin, and he's based in Texas. And he specializes with people who are critically ill and who weigh more than 600 pounds. And the first thing that he does is he sets a goal for them to lose weight. So they get on the scales. He says, you're over 600 pounds, and now you've got to lose 100 pounds before we can do any gastric band surgery. And so when they set that goal, now they have to change everything about their lifestyle. They've got to change their relationship with food. They've got to change their relationship with their environment, because a lot of people in the environment cause problems for us. You know, if you're in a family who constantly eat fatty foods and they constantly serve you fatty foods, that's going to impact you.
Yes.
So they've got to transform their environments. They've got to transform the way that they exercise. And then what Dr. Nazardin finds is that people can they can get down to 500 pounds really easily. They can get their gastric band surgery, but as soon as they get the gastric band surgery, they put the weight back on. And it's not until after they put the weight back on that they bring in the psychologist. And the psychologist says, this is not a weight problem. This is a mental and emotional problem. And once those mental and emotional problems are solved, then they lose the weight and it stays off for life. So it is a total transformation. It's both with the mind, with the body, and very importantly, they're putting themselves in the right environment with the right people.
That's cool. All right, Daniel. To close this, I want to ask one last question, because I think, I really appreciate your time for being here with me. So, okay, what resources do you recommend for people who want to achieve goals? Like if you were to start this again, like go back when you were still learning this, like what would you wish you would have known?
Well, I think the resources, all you need is a pen and a piece of paper to begin. That's all you need. And all you need to do is write down a goal. And if your goal is to lose weight or to make more money, you've got to write down your goal. So if it's to make money, you might say, it is now the 29th of March, 2024, and I now earn $100,000. And you start with a pen and a paper. And then you ask yourself, the most important question in goal setting is how? How can I earn $100,000 over the next 12 months? And you start coming up with different ideas. Well, I could get a new job. I could start a business. I could increase my knowledge. I could increase my skill. I could partner with other people. And how is the most important question? How can I achieve that goal? And you've got to start to come up with new ideas. And this is called idea generation. And the best part about that, Sylar, is it's free. All it takes is a little bit of paper, a pen, and a little bit of creativity. And that's it.
Yes. Yeah. And and then like I think one thing to add from me is like, when I voice it out, when I write it down, my girlfriend heard it and then she gave me a feedback that I didn't think about. So yeah. So ladies and gents, whoever's listening, write your goals down in specific and something achievable, and then possibly voice it out to someone. Maybe they will give you some other ideas as well. So Daniel, I really appreciate you for being here, and thank you for your time and your sharing. And I just want to say that when I invite you for this podcast, you said yes to me like so quick, like without hesitation. And like I honestly, that was one of the moments that I feel really touched. So I really want to say one more time, thank you, Daniel. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Yes.
My pleasure. Well, thank you for sending and sharing positive vibes. And it's what the world needs now. And it takes a lot of courage to ask somebody to do something. And there's an old saying in the Bible that if you knock, the door shall open. If you ask, you shall receive. And asking for help is not a weakness. It's a sign of help. And when you ask successful people for support, they always say yes. So it's my pleasure.
Then whoever's listening, where should they find you and learn more about you? Like, is there a website?
Go to my website, danieltolson.com.
Okay, danieltolson.com, and Tolson spelled as Tolson.
Correct.
All right. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, thank you, Daniel Tolson, and this is Brain Body Bliss Podcasts, and I'll see you another time. Thank you. All right, Daniel.
Okay,
that's it.
Beautiful. Thank you, my friend. My wife just left a message on my table.
Oh.
I've got to go.
Okay. Perfect timing.
Okay.
All
should
right.
we do a photo before we go?
Sure.